This podcast is brought to you from Grantwood AEA, an educational service agency that supports school districts in eastern Iowa with a focus on equity, excellence, and efficiency in education for all children.
Welcome to episode 51 of the Edtech Takeout, the podcast that serves up bite-sized technology tips for teachers. My name is Jonathan Wiley. This is Mindy Carney.
Hello.
How?
Hi. Hoi.
Hoi.
Hoi. Hello.
I feel like I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks or something.
I know. You walked in this morning. I was like, oh, hey there, stranger.
Yeah, and I was looking for all our podcasting gear this morning, and it was still in the suitcase that we took to Edtech. I was like, where is it?
I know. I've been to Nashville. I've been to Florida.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to be me.
It's hard to be you.
Yeah. All right, so...
Yeah.
Start up with some news and follow up.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I got an email from those nice people over at FlipGrid.
Yeah.
And there's something new called the FlipGrid guest mode now.
I didn't get this email.
You didn't?
No.
Well, maybe they just sent that to me.
The special users.
It's hard being me.
Yeah, right?
And there's now the ability that if you had like a guest speaker or somebody that you wanted to give access to your grid, you can grant them special permission to specific topics.
Okay.
So that they can jump in there. So maybe, I don't know, your kids all prepare questions for this guest speaker and they put them onto the FlipGrid. The guest speaker could come on and reply to those questions if you gave them permission to access that. Because that's something I always traditionally had my kids do. When we have a guest speaker, we all wrote down like 3 questions that we had for the speaker so that we knew what
we're all prepared.
Yes. So you could have them put their questions into FlipGrid and they could jump in and do that too. Or you could have them create like a hi, this is me kind of introduction and then they put in questions and then he replies or she replies.
So could parents use it?
In theory, yes.
Yeah, right.
It could be parents or grandparents or...
Does it say in that special email that you got about how many guests you can have per board? Is there some sort of limitation to that or not?
I did not see that.
Didn't say anything like that.
I mean, it gave some examples. One was like speak to an expert.
Yeah.
One was family homework, where you take a topic you've already spent time learning in class and you assign it to your students' parents and families. Yeah. So that would suggest multiple people could access on one link.
Yeah. Huh.
School-wide challenges, use it with Grid Pals, or Thank a Veteran. That's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Next week, right? This week. I don't even know what the date is. I've been out of the state.
Yeah. You're still on
I'm still
some
on
other time zone?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that idea.
Okay, so FlipGrid guest mode.
Guest mode. How do you turn it on? That might be... Do you know? Does it
I'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay, that sounds good. So this next one I finally got and was waiting maybe not so patiently. It took me a while to get it though, was the new closed captioning for Google Slides.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you tried this?
I have tried it. Yeah. It is very good.
Yeah. So the way it works is that if you have a Google slide presentation up and going, you have to hit the present button, and then down in the left-hand corner where kind of that little dashboard is, there'll be the CC for closed captioning, and you turn that on and it voice types everything you're saying.
There's real-time closed captions.
Real-time closed captions.
Yes.
Who knew?
That's great.
Yeah. So this was going to be one of my tech nuggets, but I'm going to fast forward. I don't know if this is new or not, but Gina and I discovered it last week. I had a video in my drive that wasn't, I mean, it was just a video, right? And over on the right-hand side under the 3 dots, when I had that video pulled up in my drive, you could download like a transcript to that video.
Really?
Through a Google Drive folder or doc.
Huh.
Yes.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. We had never seen it before. And so I just took like whatever doc I had and tossed it in there. The only thing I don't know how to do, because I didn't play with it very much, was like how to line it up with what people were actually saying. Like instead of it just being a scrolling thing. But we talked too about how it'd be really nice just for like a 1.5-minute screencast or something, you know, like something that's really short and quick, because it wouldn't take you much to type up what you had said if you were trying to do it for like an hour long. Don't do that. Don't do that, folks.
I know on YouTube, if you do the closed captions there, you can go back in and edit, and it will give you like timestamps where you can change
Right.
what words
So
are on the
maybe-
screen at certain times.
Maybe you can add those in there then?
I don't know.
I don't know
but,
either.
Yeah.
But so,
It's interesting.
yeah, take a look at that.
I know that's something Maggie wanted the Google Slides closed captions to do, to be able to download those
Right.
captions. Mm-hmm. But I think it's interesting if you came to do like a screencast or something and you weren't putting it on YouTube.
Yeah.
You could put your presentation into full screen mode,
Yeah.
turn on the closed captions, and do a screencast and have captions on at the same time.
Yeah. That's what we call a smash. App smash, sort of.
Yeah.
Is it?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so you were okay. This next one, like, let's talk about how excited you were about this, because every time I got an email about it, and I think I got 2 or 3 emails about this, I was like, dude, what's the big deal? You were super excited about this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your your revelation last week?
Okay, well, there was just a small thing, I guess, in hindsight. But Google introduced this new creation extension, called the .new extension, where you could go to a web browser and you could write doc.new and it would create a new Google Doc for you. You could do slides.new and it would create a new Google slide for you.
Yeah.
And what I didn't get the first time I saw this was I saw it on Twitter and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And I tried it and it worked, but I didn't watch the whole GIF or the video that went with it. So I didn't know that not only can you do doc.new, you can do docs.new and you can do document.new. Mm-hmm. And you can also do like sheet.new and sheets.new and spreadsheet.new and slide.new and presentation.new.
Yeah.
And so it's a new way to quickly create a Google document using the .new extension.
Yeah, I never knew. See.
You never knew.
Yeah. I'm glad you're super excited about that. Way to go, Google.
Yeah.
You wowed Jonathan Wiley last week.
There you go.
This one I didn't know anything about either, because I saw it on the list today and I said, what is this? So Screencastify has an add-on for Google Slides. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, just a short one. Again, I saw this online and I will link to that post. But there's this add-on for Screencastify so that when you're inside of like Google Slides, I presume it must be Slides only. You can't do that in Docs or
because you can't embed
anything
video.
else. Yeah, so you go to insert. And you, with video normally, if it was a Screencastify video, you'd have to dig through your Drive folders to get to Screencastify and then find all your videos. But the Screencastify extension will just open up a sidebar on the side and it will have that folder open with all your videos in it.
Yeah. Which is kind of nice because with Screencastify, I'm not very good about naming my Screencastify videos. Are you? Like, it's always like the date and time, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
That would be kind of nice if you wanted to add in a Screencastify video, because you probably, unless you're better than I am, which is very much a possibility, named it and knew exactly what it was called. But yeah, so that's kind of nice. A little tip and trick.
Yep.
So new Apple updates, which you always get super excited about too. I'm going to ask you a question about this after you're done.
Okay.
We're going to have a little chit chat. I forgot. I've just remembered something. But so what did the new updates? What's going on out there?
All right. So we had new iPhones in September. October was another hardware refresh for Apple devices. There's a new MacBook Air, which there has not been a new one of those for a long time. Got Retina screen and Touch ID and new keyboard and stuff like that. $11.99.
Wow.
That starts at.
That's a lot.
That's what
It's a lot.
It's kind of becoming a theme as I'm going to go through here.
Yeah.
New Mac Minis.
Okay.
They have not been updated for 4 years, apparently. They now start at $7.99. Yeah. They used to be $5.99 or $4.99.
Well, it has a better processor.
It does. It should do, though. New iPad Pros as well. 3rd generation iPad Pros, which I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah.
Lots of fun things on there. Have you seen the new design?
No.
So what they did was they took away the home button and they squished down the bezels on all sides.
Okay.
So it's got like a thin bezel all the way around. The 10.5-inch iPad Pro is the same size, but the screen goes wider.
To the edges almost, yeah.
The 12.9-inch iPad, the screen is the same size, but then they pull down the bezels. So the 12.9 is actually a bit smaller in the hand. So the new iPad Pro has Face ID. It's got a new A12X processor. There's a new Apple Pencil, which I think makes a lot more sense now.
So does that mean the old Pencil doesn't work?
Well, it means the old Pencil works with the older iPads.
Yeah, of course.
So the new Apple Pencil will stick magnetically to the side of the iPad.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It does that to charge and to pair.
Oh, to charge and... Oh,
so
that's better.
It is brilliant.
It is kind of brilliant.
Because you remember, I mean, you and me have the same first generation iPad Pro, and you stick the iPad Pencil
and it's
in
hanging out the bottom. We're like, what am I going to do with this thing?
I swear I'm going to break it off one of these times when I charge it. Yeah, it's not
So does
great.
it come with the Pro, though? It doesn't come with the Pro.
No, it doesn't come with the Pro.
Yeah, of course not.
So the new iPad Pros start at $799
of course
for the 11-inch.
Yeah.
The Apple Pencil is $129.
Holy shnikes!
The
Apple
Smart Keyboard is $179.
Wow.
So if you add all that up with an 11-inch iPad and you get the keyboard and you get the pencil, you're paying as much as a MacBook Air or more.
Go ahead and just purchase the MacBook Air.
I know. And then if you get the 12.9-inch iPad, that's $999.
Yeah.
So everything is going up in price.
Yeah. Wow.
I would really, really like a new iPad Pro, but I can't buy one at that price.
Right? It doesn't make sense.
So I'm going to introduce my new Patreon campaign, which is patreon.com/buy Wiley an iPad, and you can donate your hard-earned money. No, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Everything is better, but everything is more expensive as well.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this was going to ask you, because I know that you looked into this. I need a new Apple Watch. Have I told you this?
No?
Yeah, so my Apple Watch is, it's pretty much shot right now. It takes some finesse to make it work. And I know you looked at the new Apple Watch 4. What did you think about it?
I looked at it, but it's better, and guess what? It's more expensive.
Really? Shocker.
It's kind of like what they did with the phones and the iPads. They've made the screen bigger so that it goes around to the edges. Yeah. It's actually a little bit taller as well.
It is. It can't get much bigger. It's going to go over my wrist.
It's like another 2 millimeters or something taller. Okay. So you might not notice that difference.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay.
But it should fit all your existing bands and stuff like that.
Oh, that's good. Because that's a concern, because I've definitely accessorized.
Yeah. There's a new feature that if you fall over, it will automatically call 911 for you.
Oh, no.
Really? Help, I've fallen.
Can you disable that?
You can.
That'd be embarrassing. No, dude, I just fell over.
Actually, I think it's only enabled for users that are 65 and over.
Oh.
By default, it's enabled for those people. So, like, if you fall over, it will call emergency services. But hopefully you won't need that, Mindy.
Yikes. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks. I'll let you know how it goes.
So what do you have? Like a series?
I have a 2.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. My little my crown doesn't work anymore.
Mine's starting to get sticky.
Yeah.
And I don't know
mine went sticky too, and then it just stopped working, and now I have a hard time. So every time I get a notification, do you see it twitching?
That's a little weird.
Yeah, and then I can't clear it. Ugh.
Useful.
Yeah, it's helpful. All right, so up next, our main course, served to you piping hot. Today, we're going to do some let me start again. All right, served to you piping hot. Today, our main course is Edtech Mythbusting. We're going to bust some myths.
I think this could be a fun conversation.
It could be. It's going to be, right?
So we had this idea that there's a number of long-held beliefs, maybe, in some sectors of education regarding technology that we thought we could try and bust.
We're going to put the smack down today.
We'll do our best.
Okay.
Yeah.
We hear this a lot, this first one.
Okay.
Don't you think?
We should.
We hear a lot of people ask about what do you think the best device is for our school district?
Yeah, if they're going one-to-one, or they're replacing one-to-one districts, or they just have got a donation of some money, what is the best device to get?
Yeah. What's your first question always when people ask you that?
What are you wanting to do with it? Yeah.
Yeah. We, I feel like we do get that question a lot, and we often say, well, what do you want your students to do? I don't know that there is going to be one device that's going to do everything that you want it to.
Yeah, I think they all have pros and cons.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What's your suggestion then? So, what if they say, well, we want to do some movie editing. We want to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, where do we go from here? What's our conversation around this, you think?
I kind of feel like there's no bad device anymore. Right. I mean, unless you're trying to rustle up some really old Android tablets or something that can't be updated past whatever. I don't know, but I feel like, there are things you can do on Chromebooks. There are things you can do on other devices. And, I think just you can make the most of any device that you have, really. I mean, every device has limitations in some regards. Like, so for instance, it's not very easy to shoot video on a Chromebook.
Yeah.
However, people will tell you it's not always a lot of fun to do extended typing on an iPad.
Right. Agreed.
And so, there's just pros and cons of each one. Sometimes I think you should not just be thinking about one device. You should be thinking about, okay, what is the best device for a specific purpose? And things like that.
Yeah.
So maybe, we maybe talk about this a bit later, but I always wonder if things like, when you're doing one-to-one programs, we think about buying one device for all the students. What would it be like if we said, okay, you're an art teacher. What do you want in your classroom? You're an ELA teacher. What do you want in your classroom?
Right.
And you're a math teacher. What would you like in your classroom? And the kids just went to those classrooms and they used the devices in there. And I know it's not always going to be an ideal scenario because the kids won't be able to take those devices home. But, that gets to the crux of what do you want your kids to do and having the best device for that. And it's probably a headache for tech directors to support all those different devices and all the rest. But I don't know. I'm thinking utopian values here.
Yeah, right. And I totally agree. I do think if you're getting to the point where you want to provide equal access to all of your students and having them being able to access their schoolwork and things at home, that, if you do start thinking about a one-to-one environment, which, like Wiley said, we're going to talk about later, that it is important to really think about those teachers that have special needs for their students inside those classrooms, like the art teachers and the math teachers. And so maybe your students do all get their school administered device or whatever, but then inside there they have carts or something like that of iPads so I'm totally on board with that. I always think I could never just do my job on a computer all day, every day.
Yeah, I think the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I have to be able to have access to different things. So your students are probably going to want that too.
For sure.
Spend the money.
Spend the money, people. Okay, next one on here. Technology should improve our test scores.
Oh, haven't we talked about this before?
I feel like we have, but let's just bring it up again. We used to do these. We used to do like hot topics, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
It might have been a hot topic.
I think it was a hot topic. I think
so.
Right.
Technology and test scores. What's your stand on that?
Well, I don't think technology is going to make any difference in test scores at all. There it is. It's not going to happen. The end.
Crickets.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
I think it's unfair to put that sort of emphasis on one sort of thing to improve test scores. There are so many things that are involved with improving instruction, improving engagement, MTSS. All of those things play, I think, the most important role, where technology is more of like, a sub role in all of it. It's how you deliver things, or tools to help students create, or we're singing the same old story, but I think that's giving technology a lot of power if we think that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, and I think some of it comes down to what you're doing with the technology in your classroom. I mean, just because you have technology doesn't mean your scores are instantly going to go up. If you're doing the same things that you were doing when your scores were wherever they were before, and you're just doing the same thing with a laptop or an iPad or whatever, then your scores won't change because the teaching hasn't changed. All you're changing is, the tool that students are using to produce the final product, I guess. So that, and the fact that I don't think technology and tests go all that well in hand, because you have students creating all these things and having access to all these information and all resources, and then on the test it's like, you've got to take all that away. You can't use that, and you don't have access to that, and it's like, and
now you need to take a standardized test.
Yeah,
right, absolutely.
So I'll maybe link to a blog post. I think maybe we talked about it before, but by Dean Sharisky, and he talked about it as well. It was about how one school district, I think in the LA school district, where they measured against what their test scores were before they went one-to-one with iPads and what they were like a few years after. And it's it's not as simple as you put technology in the classroom and achievement will go up.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if they said that when we first started using pencils.
I don't know.
Well, you've all got pencils now.
No,
why aren't the kids smarter? You know, it's just a tool that you are using in the classroom.
Agreed. Okay, well, that's 2.
All right, 2 for 2.
Or 2 for 2. This one-to-one programs are the solution to all your problems. Or I might even twist this a little bit and say something like, we have to go one-to-one because everyone else does or has.
I agree.
Right?
And we definitely saw a lot of that, I think. Certain schools felt like they had to keep up
with the Joneses of sorts, yeah.
Especially with like open enrollment and stuff like that. It's like you want to try and make your school look like the most forward-thinking modern school that is out there.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we keep circling around to the same thing, is that you can have one-to-one devices in your classrooms, but if your students are still just sitting there, you know, typing away at a research paper, it doesn't change what they're actually doing. It's just changing kind of how they're doing it.
Yes.
And that it really isn't about the technology. It's about what you're doing with your students. So wouldn't it be, I mean, if you're looking at it as a marketing view, wouldn't it be neater to have your students sharing all of the amazing entrepreneurial things they're doing in their classrooms, or the outreach that they're doing in the community? That's so much more powerful than it is about saying, oh, well, we're a one-to-one district, you know?
And I guess the truth is, if you were not one-to-one before, but then you suddenly go one-to-one, then yes, a lot of things will get better, but there'll be a whole bunch of other things like challenges to work with. And what it's like to teach in a one-to-one classroom is different from like when you have 4 or 5 devices that the kids are sharing, for sure. Different classroom management strategies and ways to work around that.
Yeah, right. It's not the solution.
It's not a solution, but it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Or potentially, it's a good place to be. But it's not necessarily going to solve certain problems that you had before.
True.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do the next one. That one is definitely one you put on the list.
Yes. So students are digital natives. This one makes me crazy.
Prensky, was it?
Prensky, right?
Yes. I think so.
I think so. So, like in the, early 2000s, is that right? Somewhere around in there? I don't know. I'm just going to make up stuff. I'm just going to make up research right now. In the early 2000s, there was an article written that described a digital native between a digital immigrant, and that any children born after like 1984 or the early 1980s, something like that, were considered digital natives, and anyone born before that were digital immigrants. And the idea is that digital natives are students or kids who grow up with technology at their fingertips all of the time, and so they are able to work with technology better. They're multitask better. They do all of these things better with technology than digital immigrants, and I just call baloney.
Yeah.
I just call baloney. I think that's a bunch of baloney.
Because in practice, what you really see is that it's not a natural thing for kids just to be able to pick up a device and know how to use a specific app or tool or product.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's still a learning curve involved.
Yeah. I in my experience, and I'm not going to pretend that there's research behind this, maybe there is somewhere, but in my experience, students or children are more likely to pick up an app and investigate and explore it, maybe more than I would see like an adult learner doing. Or they, aren't afraid of clicking on something and breaking it or screwing something up. It's just not something that in my experience, that I've seen kids really worry about. Adults, a little bit different, I think. But the truth of the matter is, like, a 12-year-old, or not 12, 13-year-old, 15-year-old using Instagram or Snapchat or something like that, yes, is it easier for them just to pick that up and play with it and figure it out? Probably. Are they going to pick it up and know how to create content or, filter through garbage that they read on the internet or leverage it to improve and extend their learning? No, I think those are things that we have to teach kids, and calling them digital natives and just expecting them to be able to do that because they've grown up with a smartphone, within arm's reach all the time is doing them a disservice.
Agreed. And yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with that last part. It's the difference between the way they would use a device at home or in their personal life and the difference between how you can use it creatively or to tell a story or to you know, push a message in the same way you might do in school.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Okay.
You sound pretty passionate about it.
Oh, it makes me nuts. Okay.
Yeah? We could do like a whole episode just on that, you think?
No, I said that's all I had.
Okay.
That's it.
I looked it up. It was Mark Prinsky. We were right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right, next up. Oh, this one makes me crazy too.
Technology equals engagement. This one makes you crazy.
This one makes me crazy too.
I'll just pass the soapbox over to you then.
No, I feel bad. I feel like my face is even like turning red a little bit. Is it?
No, you're good.
Okay. So I would say that I feel passionately about this because I know that when I first started using iPads in the classroom, I believe that technology equaled engagement. So I've lived it, and I was, and I remember, I can still remember the moment when I kind of looked around. I'm like, wow, my students are working so quietly. Like everybody's really engaged. And then I started thinking about what they were actually doing and was kind of watching them, and they were doing like math flashcards, right?
Yeah.
And yes, they were engaged maybe for the moment because it was something new and flashy. You know, they had never used iPads in the classroom before. A lot of them had never even had their hands on an iPad before. It was, you know, a fairly new device. But just because they were compliant and sitting in their desks and flipping through flashcards didn't mean that they were actually engaged with content that they needed to be engaged with.
Right. It's that whole engagement versus compliance debate again.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So I often, you know, worry a little bit about when I hear people say, I just need to put some technology in this lesson because I want to see my students engaged. And that's, once again, not going to solve your problems. They might be engaged for a moment because it's a new flashy tool or it's got some bells and whistles that are kind of fun to play with. But it really is about what the students are doing and if they're doing what they need to be doing to extend their learning.
Agreed. Okay. Yeah. I have nothing further to add, Your Honor.
I know. Okay. I'm going to stop talking now.
No, that's good. I like this, Mindy.
Okay.
So let's move on to another myth then. We got like 3 or 4 still to do here.
Okay.
Digital citizenship is the responsibility of teacher librarians.
Oh.
We should get Lynn to talk about this. Yes. She would love this, wouldn't she? So this is one of those things. I think it kind of gets perpetual. Oh, she's
peeking in the window. She must have heard her name. Like,
she did.
She heard her name.
So this is one of those things that I think I don't know where this even came from.
I don't know. Why is this a thing?
Yeah, because digital citizenship is something that is part of that library media curriculum that they do teach kids and is an important thing as part of that digital literacy idea, but it's not solely the responsibility of the teacher librarians. It's any time that you come up across an issue in your classroom, whether it's like kids using images in a slide deck or whether they're getting music from somewhere or whether you're addressing something that they're finding online that's objectionable or disagrees with people's ideas on a topic, then, you know, that's a digital citizenship talking point that you can have with your kids in the classroom.
Well, you know, and let's say 10 years ago, most of the technology in the school was probably housed inside the media center, right? So if teachers were going into the lab, it still was like, you know, the media center is where all that technology lives. So it was the teacher librarian's responsibility to share those digital citizenship things. But we've moved so much technology into classrooms. Students are involved with it consistently and constantly. And if we're not addressing those things in the moment and are giving those topics over like, oh, the teacher librarian will take care of it when they go to the media center for half an hour once a week. It's just not, it's not doing it in real time when it really needs to be addressed. And I think that's unfortunate that we have, I think, still some of that stigma around that digital citizenship is taught in the media center.
And to be clear, I guess, you know, we're not talking about you teaching necessarily a 40-minute digital citizenship lesson in math.
Right.
You know, I mean, those types of scenarios, those more structured conversations may be better with the teaching librarians. But, there are opportunities in your classroom with the things that you do with your kids when they're on devices that you need to reinforce that kind of message that is being heard there, so that kids see that as a role model and they know that this is a consistent message that applies throughout the school in all areas, in all classrooms, in all subjects and everything else.
All the time.
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Next up. Digital equals accessible? Tell me why you wrote this down.
So this is something that Maggie suggested, Maggie Pickett on our team. One of the teams I'm on here at Grantwood is the Accessible Educational Materials team. And we talk about UDL and making sure kids all have access to materials that are available to them, as opposed to just handing them one version of a material, like a paper copy of something. And the kind of stereotype with that is, well, a paper textbook is not very accessible, because if you wanted that read aloud to you, or you wanted to, I don't know, look up some words and they're in like a dictionary bank or something like that, then you can't do that in a paper copy. And the myth is that if it's digital, then it's accessible. And in reality, as you'll probably know yourself, a lot of you, that you have those digital online textbooks and things like that, but they don't work on all devices, or they're not compatible with screen readers, or they don't have those accessibility functions built in that will let you do speech to text or text to speech and those other things. So digital is not always accessible, unfortunately.
And just in the last probably 2 months or so, I feel like I've learned a lot of lessons, primarily, I think, because Maggie is now on the team and has made us more aware of the things that we're missing from blog posts, or even like on Twitter and Instagram, and like how to make those things accessible so people with, challenges of some sort, can be able to access that stuff in the same way that others can. And it's been very eye-opening.
Yeah,
it's been
definitely.
very eye-opening. Yeah.
It's been great to have that additional point of view on our team, for sure.
I agree. Screen time is bad. Oh.
I know we've talked about this before.
We have, yes. Yeah. This is a hot topic too, yeah?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long-time listeners may remember this one.
Yeah.
So, screen time is bad.
Yeah. I really love the Facebook article that always says screen time is like heroin. Have you seen this, article on Facebook?
Think so.
You're not much of a Facebook reader. So
no, not at all.
That makes me crazy too when I see people starting to share that article. It's like how addictive screen time can be. And I would not say that screen time is not addictive. Okay. I believe that it can be.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I know, myself, once we started talking about that screen time, new screen time.
In iOS, yeah.
Yes. I spent 6 hours on Words with Friends last week. That's a lot of time. Yes, it was my most used app, right?
Okay,
but it's just, I feel like I'm engaging myself, right? I'm making my brain work, so it's a little bit better than being on Facebook.
Is it engagement, or is it...
Well, it is.
Here we go.
Yeah, if you have my vocabulary, you have to seriously make your brain work to make, But what I would say, and I would think that you probably agree, is that there's a big difference in sitting in front of a screen and consuming, like, I don't know, like my kids watching those videos of kids unwrapping gifts that they wish they had.
For sure.
In comparison to them creating their own videos. I mean, that's still screen time, right? But the difference would be their level of engagement.
Yeah, no, I see that at home with my kids as well, and certain apps and things will play on their tablets, and then even it's going to look similar to some people, like them when they're on Minecraft.
Yeah,
and then I still think there's a difference between those like consumption games where they're doing like little endless runners or driving games or whatever, and
like
then
Plants vs Zombies.
Yeah,
brainless game.
Minecraft. I walked in the other day and my daughter had created a school.
Yeah,
and all these different rooms, and she had desks out, and she had all these different, and the time and creativity and thought that went into something like that. I feel like that was more of what we're getting at here, which is quality versus quantity of screen time.
Right.
And I think we still need to be mindful of it, because at the end of the day, if your kids are in a one-to-one school and they're using devices all day long, and then they come home and they're still using devices, then it's a different type of usage. I get that, but
well, and I know, like, even throughout my day, 8 hours. There are days where sometimes I am in front of my screen for that full 8 hours because it's the day of I'm like catching up on email. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And even if I'm doing some creating in there and like creating graphics or whatever, I still go home at the end of the day like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I could claw my eyeballs out. It's, and then I go home and play Words with Friends for a couple hours,
Yeah, we know that now.
But I think it's important still, as with anything, the balance of working with others and collaborating online, but offline too. It's so important to be able to communicate face-to-face with someone and give feedback and things like that, and how important it is to make sure you have that balance in your classroom, because if you're not doing it in your classroom, you can't expect someone else to be doing it in their classroom either. It has to be a balanced approach.
I'm nodding my head here, but yes, you're right, correct. Yeah.
All right.
Did we leave the most controversial one to the end here?
Oh, God, yes.
I don't know if this is controversial or not, but yeah.
I think it is.
Okay.
So you say it.
All right, then. There's software you can get for your devices.
Right.
And you can get these for basically all platforms. One of their selling features is the ability to monitor and control your kids' devices in your classroom, so that you can see everybody's screens at one time. And I feel like there's this misconception out there that you couldn't teach without those types of supports.
Right. And
I get the impression that a lot of the time it is possible to do that.
I agree.
Mean, I've heard people say, I couldn't live without GoGuardian or Land School or any of these other tools that help me see all the devices of my kids at one time. Or maybe even Apple Classroom does that with the iPads too. Yeah. So is there an alternative? Is there things we can do in our classrooms that maybe don't necessitate having those types of software installed?
Yeah. I think it is tricky. I'm not going to lie. If you think about working with students in small groups, we talk so much about blended learning, about having those students in different stations and they're using technology for different things. But I'm back with my group of 5 kids, and it leaves those other 25 kids, I'm hoping, are being accountable and doing what they're supposed to be doing, but I can't necessarily see those screens. And so I think there is some sort of like kind of safety, like a safety net feeling of, well, if I could lock them into what they're supposed to be doing, then I know that that's what they're doing. And I just don't think that's probably the case. So I guess I think it's important to be thinking about what your students are doing, which also brings up that idea of personalized learning. If they're going to make mistakes and they are going to screw around here and there, just like, I'll be honest, like I'm not like 100% on 8 hours every day while I'm here. There are times where I might, like, I don't know, look at something on Twitter that isn't necessarily work related. But at the same time, I know that I need to do that. I can't be on for 8 hours every day. But we really have to look at making sure that our students are doing what is best for their learning. And with that personalized learning model, where students are choosing maybe a passion project of some sort and are really interested in what they're doing, they're highly engaged in it, they're feeling that time might be better utilized by them if they're really engaged in something that is important to them. Now, teachers often, are like, well, I have to get these things done and I have to know that they're knowing, that they're working on those things. Absolutely. But classroom culture is so important,
For sure.
And the fact that you have to be able to trust each other to be doing the work, knowing that everyone's going to fall into the, I don't know, disengagement side here and there, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And, there's always that temptation with devices that you could just open a new tab.
And then, right?
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, like you said, I think it's part of that classroom culture, setting expectations, being able to trust and work with each other. And, when I think about the times, even before I had any devices in my classroom, that, the times when kids were not doing what I wanted them to do was usually because what I was asking them to do was not very engaging and it was not a very exciting thing to do. So, they're going to look for other things to do instead if they don't have something that is directly interesting them or keeping them engaged in the work. I'm not saying that's necessarily the problem here for everybody, but I know that it was in my classroom that I could look back at some of those activities and think, that was just like I wrote 100 problems of this, and it's like, that's nobody's going to be thinking, wow, 100 math problems, let's get at it. They're going to be looking around the room thinking, geez, I wonder how long is it going to take me to do this.
Yeah, right.
So there's a place for those land school and Go Guardian things. I think we were talking about this earlier, and someone mentioned, they have like other types of monitoring type of things in there where they could monitor like keywords and searches and emails and things too.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know what the name of this is, but Lynn did when we were talking about it. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's called Beacon, and it's through Go Guardian, and there is like a kind of like a social emotional sort of thing that goes on. So they look for different phrases and things like that in emails that would flag maybe students that would need help with a counselor or just need someone to check in on them and make sure everything's okay. So in that regard, absolutely. It's a powerful tool. I think that's awesome. I just get a little bit nervous when we start locking our students into screens.
Yeah.
During their work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
how would you feel as an adult if you were locked into that one screen?
Oh my gosh. Yeah? I'd quit.
You would? Okay.
I'd be like, I'm out. I don't do very well with rules, though, so that is some of the problem.
Those are our EdTech myths for this episode. If you
Busted!
If you have ideas or comments or suggestions, send them all to Team Carney on Twitter.
Yeah, right. Oh, jeez.
And she will take care of all those for you.
All right, up next, my favorite, Tech Nuggets.
Tech Nuggets.
Tech Nuggets. Well, I gave one of my Tech Nuggets already, but I brought 3.
You had a spare nugget?
I had a spare nugget, and the reason I had a spare nugget is because you shared my Tech Nugget on Twitter like 3 weeks ago.
Nobody saw that.
Yeah, right. It got retweeted like a gazillion times. Thanks a lot.
All right.
So I'm going to start with my nugget, which is the Notable Women AR. And what's neat about it is that it allows you to see notable women on dollar bills. So it's kind of like the old Erasma, like you can hover over that dollar bill and see. I don't even know. What did Erasma do when you...
It did things like that, yeah.
Yeah, did it? I don't know what it did. Anyway, so now what you can do is see historical women on U.S. currency. So kind of a neat little thing to share with students. And there's like Harriet Tubman. There are Elizabeth Maggie. I don't know. Somehow has the history of the board game Monopoly. I don't even know. And that's what's neat about it. It's like women that you don't necessarily know about. So you should really check that one out. Notable Women is the name of it.
Well, for the record, I'd just like to add that I did give you credit when I tweeted it out.
Yeah, I know. Takes the fun away, though.
I didn't say, look at this amazing app I found.
I know, but you shared it. It was supposed to be a tech nugget.
Well,
you put Brush Ninja on here?
I did. That's my nugget.
Oh,
it's here.
I was going to save that one for next time. Fine.
Brush Ninja.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard Byrne. I found Brush Ninja, which is an animated GIF creator.
Yeah.
This is just a fantastic little tool. I didn't know this even existed. So you go to brush.ninja. It is a free tool.
Is it working on your tablet right now?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I just did it on my computer.
See, if you did that as a nugget, I would have had to jumped in and told you that. So.
Shocker. Well, I wasn't using it this time.
So you go to brush.ninja, and you don't even need to log in, which is fantastic.
I know.
And you get this little drawing pad. It looks like an Instagram square type of sheet of paper here. Mm-hmm. All the colors over on the side. You got some pen thickness and pen tools over on the left, and some shapes and text and all kinds of other stuff. And you draw it like a frame at a time to do like a stop motion animated GIF type of deal. So you draw one part, and then at the bottom are your frames, and you can copy the frame so that on the next one, when you add something else, and you keep copying the frames and building it up part by part. And it's really super simple and easy to do. There is a limit to the number of frames you can have. I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe like 60.
I did like 4 or 5 today, and that was plenty. But
yeah. And you can choose things like the number of frames per second that it plays at, so you can speed it up or slow it down. You can do a little bit with like layers and animation, move things backwards and forwards on your image. You can have background images. And then you just hit the export button and you can create an animated GIF of your creative, artistic effort.
Yeah, that's neat.
So, yeah, I'm glad I thought of it as a tech
I saw
nugget.
it from Eric Kurtz. You saw it from Richard Byrne, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see.
Beat Brush Ninja if you can.
Yeah, I don't know that I can beat Brush Ninja.
Oh, Brush Ninja also has a Mac app.
They do?
Yes.
Nobody has a Mac app anymore, do they?
They have a Mac app and they have the web app, and the web app works on all devices.
Yeah. Nice. All right, well, I have something called Tall Tweets. Have you seen this?
I don't think so.
So what Tall Tweets does is takes your Google slide presentation
Wait a minute.
and creates it into a GIF.
We just did GIFs.
I know.
Okay. GIF Mark 2.
So I use this a lot for Edtech. Well, a couple of times. I shouldn't say a lot. I used it for Edtech when I was tweeting out just, the stuff with like our presentations and stuff like that. And took some of the slides from my slide deck and put them into Tall Tweets, and it just flashes them through as a GIF.
So you can take all the slides from a presentation, or can you choose like several ones or specific ones?
You can. I don't know that there's a limit. I did try. Amber and I have that one slide deck that is like 94 slides long.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yes.
Yeah, that Choose Your Own Adventure one.
Yeah, the Choose Your Own Adventure one. And I tried to do that one, and it wouldn't load.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's just because there's so much stuff on it that it was, too much. But you can choose specific slides and just do like 1, 5, 7 and choose ones out. Or I think it'll just make one straight out of your whole slide deck.
Okay. All right, so my last tech nugget pick is a link I saw tweeted out on Twitter by a Googler. I think that's what they're called.
Okay.
Someone who works at Google.
Googly.
A Googler. Maybe we're all Googlers. I don't know. And there's a link that they have here called Upcoming G Suite Releases. And it's a website you can go to, and it basically shows you all the things that Google are working on for future feature updates.
Nice.
So if you want to take a little peek at what's coming up on the old Google timeline for your favorite app of choice, then this link shows you that. It lets you filter through by different app. So, for example, for Google Docs, they have something coming up that says, use machine learning technology to recognize and help correct potential grammar issues in real time. So as you are typing, it is checking your grammar.
So like auto compose, kind of?
I'm thinking like
Smart Compose?
I'm thinking things like Ginger and stuff like that. I've seen that extension. So, so it's checking what you are typing in real time. So that's coming soon. You heard it here first, guys, if you didn't hear it anywhere else. Sheets. They're working on the ability to add images directly into a cell in Sheets.
I think you could already do that.
Well, I think you can't. You have to do it like with some URL or something now.
I would agree. I think you're right.
Yeah, so that drives me crazy. I feel like I should be able to...
all those sheets you're using, it drives you crazy.
Every time I go in there, I want to put an image in there.
I just want to put an image in my
and then I have to do like a formula or something. And
Yeah, okay.
So that's coming in Sheets. Enable users in Google Drive accounts to securely view, comment, suggest changes, and edit files with a PIN code, even if they don't have like a Google account.
Oh.
So you could share it with somebody and let them comment or edit on it, and you have a secret PIN code that they need to get into.
Ooh, Google, thank you. I like that.
Secret PIN codes.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay.
Here's one that's similar to what we just talked about. Quizzes in locked mode on Chromebooks prevent students from navigating away from a quiz until they submit their answers on managed Chromebooks.
Yeah.
And I guess, that's going to be the old stop them opening a new tab and Googling the answer, which takes us back to...
Think about what you're asking.
Correct. Line answer.
Yeah.
So there you go. Right. That's called... I'll put the link in for that because it's not something easy, but it's upcoming G Suite releases. You could throw that into a search engine and probably find it quite quickly.
So I had put one more tech nugget on here. I forgot because I did them last week before I left on my trip.
Jeez.
To go along with, although at that time I didn't know that you had put the Land School and Go Guardian one on there. But I did see, and this isn't new, but it was something that I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that, is that if you have students in a slide deck, a collaborative slide deck, so they're all creating on different slides at once, you could put your slide deck that you're looking at into grid view and be able to see what all of the students are working on at one time.
That is fun.
Right.
That's a good idea. I did that recently with some teachers.
Yeah.
Everybody had their own slide and they were all working on something. I did not think to do that.
Yeah. And so last week when we were doing that Google Basics class, and I said, and look, now you can do grid view and then I can see what all of you are creating. So if I am interested in what this one student is doing, I can go over and say, hey, tell me more about what you're doing here. Explain what you're working on. And
that would be a great way to use that monitoring aspect of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, and where did you get that amazing tech nugget from?
That was from Matt Miller. I don't know. I just came across it. He sends out some good stuff. I usually try and skim through it, and I was like, oh, that's I should tell people about that.
You
Thanks,
should.
Matt Miller.
I like it.
Yep.
All right, before we go, this has been a longer episode, but I wanted to do a few shout-outs.
Oh.
And we haven't done these for a while because of Edtech and some other things on here, so you might like the first one. A quick tip of the hat to Craig Nansen, who's been checking my work on Podbean and let me know about bad links in the show notes.
Oh, have you been making lots of mistakes?
Well, I think Podbean is doing something weird to my links, so I'll usually put in the show notes are at dlgwaa.org/podcast/51.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's the right link, but when you click on it, it's not the right link.
No.
So, Craig, thank you.
Thank you. Craig, email me next time so I know he's making mistakes. Thanks.
Okay. I'm admitting it on the show. I don't know how more public I could be.
I love that.
We also heard from Rachel Smith, who liked PDF Candy.
Oh, yeah.
A previous Tech Nugget pick. So you can try that at pdfcandy.com if you haven't tried it. And thank you to aforementioned Eric Kurtz, who also shared that blog post.
Hey, Eric.
And got us like 1 million hits.
Yeah, right.
Edtech Wilson on Twitter loved Mindy's Toy Theatre pick.
I know, it's a good one.
That's the old virtual manipulatives that you think should be the National Virtual Manipulatives website.
I'm going to Congress. Yep.
Okie doke.
Okay.
Ben Fate, Arcadia Parson, Thomas Hammerland, Sheila Gearhart were sharing the show with other people on Twitter, so it's always good to see that.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Jen Giffen was excited to hear Manuel Herrera on the episode last week.
Oh, sure.
He was a fun guest.
He was.
We should have him back.
We should. I am at Team Carney on Twitter, and Jonathan is at Jonathan Wiley. Our team account is at DLGWAEA. You can use our hashtag EdTechTakeout, not EdTechTO, okay, to tag the show. If you prefer, you can send us an email to podcast@gwaea.org.
So until next time.
This has been the EdTech Takeout. We hope it hit the spot.
For more information on today's episode, please visit dlgwaea.org/podcast.